how do you fact check a rumor? Like say I've said something like people are threatening me from another community that's not specific. Is that fact checkable? I'd just be curious what your tactics are in that situation.
So my question goes to all the panelists. So I believe that we're all gathered here because we believe in peace and safety for everyone. And there's so many people doing such amazing work towards that cause. So I'd like to know, according to each one of you, where do you think the gap is? Because I still feel like we are not yet there. And especially for me, if I speak for me as a girl, I feel like even coming from here, I still have to think about the route that I will use to go home. Do I have to Uber just because of that aspect of safety? So where is the gap according to you?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'll reveal that I'm a very superficial person because I'll ask the question. I think Cal said we're all now taken by the hype of AI. So for more for Jan, but maybe others have comments as well. How will your system work with AI? Are you planning to? Is it already AI driven? And do you see this data set being kind of consumed and chewed over by large language models and so on? And what might then come from that? Is that good? Is that bad?
Perfect, thank you. Let's start from there. We'll let these folks answer, and then we'll gather some more.
Okay, thank you for your question. As a money center, we are well connected with the local setting. We have Nyumba Kumi, that is the Nyumba Kumi initiative in Kenya, that is 10 houses per 10 houses in a village, where there is one headman who lives in that village, and then we have the chiefs and the sub-chiefs. We've got such a network where we always, once we get a rumor, we just confirm with these authorities, that is from the headman, the sub-chief, to the chief, and to the sub-county commissioners. Yeah, so that is where we get all our data, and after that we send back the verified information. Thank you.
All right, the second question was about gaps as sort of like peace as safety, and specifically gendered aspects of that. I wonder if Elsa and Diana, if you would have.
So in the last 10 years since I've been doing this work, I think a lot has happened. We had the global Me Too movement. A lot of things have changed. In India, we have a whole series of new laws that protect women's rights. But I feel there's this constant thing of where you take 5 steps forward and then 10 steps back when it comes to women's rights. Just last week in North India, one of the states, they said from 7 p.m. onwards, women should not be out in public spaces, and there's like a curfew. We can't live in a world where this is acceptable. Definitely not. But how do you change it? One is all of us are part of society. Are we challenging unconscious bias? Are we challenging the status quo? Are we intervening as bystanders or contributing to the culture of silence? Does our country have strong laws? Are we holding institutions accountable? The example I gave of Manila, they have one-stop crisis centers. They have the laws. None of it is being used. And in India, it's not different either, right? But when you have data to show that this is happening over and over again, it's not just you, not just me, because when you go with your individual story, the spotlight is put on you to question you. Why were you in that space? And you probably had you caused the problem to happen. But when you can show it's happening over and over again, you're forcing them to take action and make systems work. Why can't you walk on the streets? It's not your responsibility alone. It's everybody's responsibility. I think so the gap is in helping people change about how they view the problem, in making this data visible so that institutions are accountable. And the third one is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We already heard today so many examples exist. We can just partner with each other, collaborate. Safe City would not have been so successful without the partnerships around the world. And it's efficient, it's sustainable. We don't have to put in more money. We just have to build on it You know, we talked about innovation. Innovation is really using it in a way where it works for you. And that's the beauty of our work, because it allows you to collect the data, but use the data in ways that make sense for you and your community. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to reflect on a gap that actually resonates with one of the questions that Julie asked in the panel, which is if it's easier or more difficult to innovate today. And I want to refer to that because I think that a huge gap that we have now is that we have been talking about innovation for a long time, but we haven't got to a point where we have really cracked the code in how to sustain that innovation. So I think that there's a huge gap there from moving from one-shot innovations to really build a systemic change that lasts so that we don't go again back to conflict. Let me give you one example. So one of the biggest work that I have done with the Build Peace community, I'm still working on today, is how to use digital tools to enhance democracy in conflictive scenarios. And it's a big conversation on how to use those tools, but we haven't cracked the code yet on how to use those amazing tools to build a better democracy. So we use them in small processes, small conversations, but there's a huge gap in really understanding and working together in using those processes and tools to really build systemic changes in terms of building better institutions, that respond and address democracy in a good way. So I really want to use the answer to this question to encourage all of us to start thinking less on the innovation and more about how can we sustain the innovations that work and really embed that into the institutions that we build. And obviously this goes back into the design and how we can design to sustain, but also into, it's very hard to work after the shine is gone, after the one example is gone out there, and it really takes a lot of patience and effort and humility to keep on going, to keep on moving things. So I do think that we need to address that gap together.
Okay. Yeah, I might focus on the artificial intelligence question. I mean, we use machine learned, basically analytical strategies to access all these written documents that probably are humanly not even accessible anymore because it's just so much. And it wouldn't be a good use of basically human time to read these reports because many of them are just really dull. And to find out like the interesting bits, it's often then just in a broader kind of comparison, a broader analysis that would be very difficult to do without these tools. I mean, there's still limits. For the peace agreements, we still use manual coding. We combine that, but there is certain limits. You can't get beyond certain elements. It might be when we reflect what will be possible. I mean, one of the big problems in peace agreements, when you read them, especially comparatively, is that they're not really creative. So basically, the humans writing them, they have like a toolkit, and this toolkit is not necessarily positive because it's the same things happening every time, and there's no real creative solutions. So funnily, I would expect when you let AIs draft kind of just propositions, you might come up even with more innovative stuff than just with the regular lawyers who draft these agreements, because they do exactly the same thing all the time. But of course, might not work like that. I mean, I think that the main opportunity these techniques give us now is to look into like broader data sources that we can just not access, and this might tell us a bit more. But this is, I guess, at the moment where we stand, we can't do much more at the moment, I think.
Not yet. I mean, we use machine learning, but I'm trying to upskill myself on AI and what is possible, and also talking to a lot of people in the space to help me think about what might be possible. So, you know, ours is an anonymous reporting platform, but could we use AI to push more information that is relevant by location to someone so that they may build their confidence to report and access help resources. So that's how I'm thinking of how to use AI.
So I really want to catch us on to your point about sustainability. Specifically, how easy it is for, let's say, like an NGO who has never really do like the digital peace building before, or a volunteer group, to pick up the technology that is needed in order to set up the platform that you have in Colombia. The second part of the question is, what kind of resources is required to basically maintain this platform? So just so you know, I come from a program development perspective. That's the reason why that it will be very interesting to know more about this regard. Thank you.
As somebody that builds tools to help peace builders, and is always in battling with the fact that building tools is very expensive, and the initiatives that people do are often offline that make a difference. I wonder if you guys have any thoughts on the balance between how much resources, that's money and time, should we be spending in building innovation and tools, and how much we should we be doing on actual people and time?
Looking at the African context, now that we're in Kenya and we still have peace-building initiatives, and now I realize, following the conversation that we had in the morning, it's not digital peace-building, it has been more of digital security. We are yet to get to the peace-building bit where we are talking about tolerance for each other and conversations amongst different people. And this, in the Kenyan context and in the African context, the reason as to why we have conflicts that erupt over time, especially electioneering periods, is because of ethnicity, tribal clashes, as well as problems with land, politicians, etc. And now they're spewing over to digital platforms. And these are based on stereotypes that have existed in generations, very many generations prior, and still exist today. How do we tackle that? Because the problems that we are seeing on digital spaces and the conflicts online and disinformation as well as hate speech is exactly what has existed over the years in physical spaces, in person, people still not being able to tolerate each other. How do we shift from digital security as well as just security to digital peace building while addressing these problems that have existed for very many years? And it's not just in Kenya, even Rwanda, the Hutus and the Tutsis as well. There were systemic problems, division of land, etc., that made one tribe and one community feel like they were not valued enough. So how do we truly address the root causes of conflicts and violence in African states and across the globe? Because I don't think that this is just an African problem. So then now we get to shift to proper peace building. Thank you.
I want to answer that question getting back to the design for sustainability. So I think that if we started the project today with what we know now, we wouldn't have done Marea as we did because it took a lot of efforts and time in setting up the digital platform. And then we realized that where we needed to focus actually was on the offline process. So I think that getting back to design for sustainability, and this is from the lessons that I actually have from being a Build Peace Fellow, is the importance of designing with people and using a human-centered design approach to understand really what kind of resources you already have and what the problem really is, and then design based on that instead of thinking what kind of resources do I need to achieve this that happened somewhere else. So I would encourage to approach that question from that perspective, because what we did at the time was actually to what I just described, to get inspired in what worked in another place, which was Argentina, with a platform called Caminos de la Villa, and the platform worked really well, just the platform. But then when we exported it to a different context, it didn't make sense. So I think that there's a big lesson in understanding really the context and what you're trying to do and what resources you already have, instead to achieving something that might have worked well somewhere else, but perhaps you don't have those same resources, and the problem might be different, even if it looks the same. So thinking from that human design perspective, I think could be really useful, and this also resonates with Benjamin's question about how much effort should we dedicate to digital technology, and how much resources to the offline part. I think that it depends a lot on the problem that you have and that you're trying to address, and also the resources that you already have and you can work with. So I think one of the biggest lessons for me the past 10 years in Build Peace has been that approach of human-centered design and thinking about the problem and not the solution, and it works really well in different contexts. Thank you.
I feel the first two questions are related, so I'll take that. So when we first started, we used Ushahidi, an open source software, and we were able to literally get up and running 10 days after the gang rape. It was extremely low cost. We did it with a volunteer, tech volunteer. I'm not a technologist. And we used it for many, many years. But in the meantime, lots of other changes happened. You had GDPR, and we also found the platform a bit limiting. So then the next question was, if we have to do it all over again, how do I do it? We took a lot of input from our communities. And one of the things that we had feedback was, even if it's anonymous and I'm doing it from the comfort of my home, I feel very lonely, I feel very triggered. So the UI UX was extremely important, and we have an empathy layer now built into the design. And for me, it was important that I find a partner, tech partner, who would not treat me like a client, vendor-client relationship, who would walk with me on this journey. And I found her during the pandemic when we were also going through a lot of changes. She is the founder of the Data Duck, understands the issue, believes in it, and is like my outsourced CTO. And together we've built this platform, it's in its third iteration, to be used anywhere. So it's highly customizable. And I also realized over the last 10 years, because I would mentor many organizations that had a tech focus, they couldn't maintain their apps. Every time there's a change on the App Store, you need to you have to update your code or be on top of it. And nonprofits don't necessarily have the resources. And when I talk about nonprofits like us, who are small in size and don't have dedicated tech teams. So we built the platform in a way that we, as Red Dot Foundation Global, support the tech for our partners. For them, it's free. We also try to raise grants so that we can collectively do the work. And that way, it's sustainable for everyone. It is cheap for everyone. The biggest cost is not really the tech. The biggest cost is the on-ground piece. I also don't believe that just putting a tech platform out there and inviting people to report about a deeply traumatic experience is going to generate reports. I think that was the biggest mistake. I started off never anticipating I was going to move into the development sector. I just wanted to respond to the gang rape. But the hardest work that I've ever done is really educating communities, especially women and other vulnerable groups, to think about breaking the silence, reporting, so that as a collective, we can make that change happen, and really using that data in ways that make sense so that you can show the success stories. So it's not one success story. There are so many kinds of success stories. Police is one kind of response. It's not the only response. All my partners on the ground have used innovative ways to make that change happen, and we learn from each other. We use the talking boxes that Jane has in Kibera in low digital resource communities in India, for example. And even in New York City, they're planning to use these these talking boxes where you can collect written hand notes and then upload it onto the site so that you can then analyze it as a data set. So it can be efficient if you want it to be, and collaboration is the key to that.
Yeah, I mean, this question with the resources is indeed, it's a very interesting one. And we have to face this on several levels. I mean, the first is we are basically paid as a research project, and the question is that we have to have academic outputs, but in a way, like the manpower that goes into the development of the tech elements is kind of more expensive. So you have to also have a storyline why you want to experiment. What is this going to like bring forward? What is this really offering? And this is like, I think, a constant challenge. And I think the second thing is then also sustainability, because I think for many of us it's kind of easy to get like a grant to start things, but at one point the financial backing needs to be sustainable, and this is not something you can just sell on the market. This is the problem. I mean, a lot of things are available, as you've said. Like there's open source there, so it's not so much the hardware; it's the people doing it, and they need a livelihood. I mean, like voluntarism is fine, but it just takes you so far, and this. Having here sustainable finances in place is really, really challenging, and probably goes just via long-term partnerships with partners who are really willing to invest in this as a long-term endeavor.
I had forgotten this, that we have an SMS code that the whole county, Tana River County, have that code. So whenever you feel like something is going to happen, you just SMS to that code. We get the message and we confirm it. Then we respond it back to the person. This is similarly happening right now. You find that there's flooding in Tana River County. So people have been like, oh, we think that we have heard that this dam is going to be opened. That means we are going to be carried away by the floods. So we confirm with the local NGOs, like the Kenya Red Cross, with the other authorities, and then we send back the messages to the respective people. They're responding to my sister's question there. I think it is a collective responsibility. You find that we have done much as media, as a person, but we are not seeing the difference. The difference is not much. That is because I think we need like counter this misinformation, the disinformation, and the hate speech by ensuring that whenever you find information that you feel and you know that this is like misinformation, it is a targeted information that maybe is supposed, it has been sent with the intention of creating some disharmony. You don't need to send that message. You don't need to forward that message. You don't need to like and comment on it, because the moment you forward that message, that means you are like spreading that same message, and it's like you're pioneering on it. So there is also the issue of you find the 3 case studies that I have shown there. The media was blamed for it, was largely blamed for it. So there is need for the media. There's need for self-censorship in the media, ensuring that you don't need to broadcast everything, right? You don't need to broadcast everything. Choose what you want to broadcast to the people, what is important for the community. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, can we have a round of applause for our short takers here?